Hey everybody, it's Mike Peasall, pastor at Gateway Christian Center here in Goodlettsville, Tennessee. Hope you're having a great day. It's a little cold here in the Nashville area, but today is Wednesday, November 1st, and this is Mike's Midweek message. We're getting some new carpet here at the church, and so I'm getting some other work done. So I'm a little different dressed than normal, but that's okay. So today's topic is living a life of favor. Now, when we think about the topic of favor, a lot of times we think, well, okay, somebody wants a favor from us, or we want a favor from somebody, and this is kind of combining that and then just living a life of favor. So when somebody comes up and asks you a question, hey, I need a favor. Well, how you respond is going to depend on a couple of things. One is going to depend on, what kind of relationship do you have with this person? Is this person you just met walking through the grocery store parking lot, and they need their car jumped or something like that, or is it a spouse or a child asking for a favor, or is it a coworker, or is it somebody who they're kind of an irritating person, and all of a sudden, they don't need anything from you until they need something from you. So when we get asked that question, hey, I need a favor, a lot of emotions might come up. But I was reading a story. I'm in my Old Testament reading. I'm actually in the book of Nehemiah right now. And in the book of Nehemiah, the character of Nehemiah, he's an incredible character. We see that he's literally working, he's the cupbearer for the king. And he's going to become the one who rebuilds through his leadership, he's going to rebuild the walls of Jerusalem, and he's going to do it in record time. And he's going to do it with a lot of people telling him he can't do it and telling him he shouldn't do it, and he's not the right man for the job, but he does it anyways. But what's really interesting to me is the first part of the story. It shows us that Nehemiah was a man of great character. He was a man who lived in favor. And so here's where the story goes. Nehemiah chapter 2, and I'm just going to read verses 1 through 6. In the month of Nisan, in the 20th year of King Artaxerxes, when wine was before him, I took up the wine and gave it to the king. Now I had not been sad in his presence. Now understand that when you serve the king, your job was to never go in there and he wasn't to know anything that was going on in your life. As far as he was concerned, everything was great. You were there to make sure that he was kept happy, that he was fed, that he was given his wine at the right time and the right temperature and all that other stuff. You didn't have the right to go into the king and say, "Oh, king, I'm just having a bad day," or whatever. So the king had never seen me sad in his presence. That's important. And verse 2 says, and the king said to me, why is your face sad, seeing you're not sick? This is nothing but sadness of heart. Then I was very much afraid. See, Nehemiah had gotten news that his homeland, Jerusalem, that the wall was just deteriorating. It was completely crumbled. That there was there were people living there, but it was completely unsafe, and it was devastated from what it originally had been. And he just couldn't hide. He couldn't hide it anymore. I mean, it affected him whenever he thought about his homeland being in that kind of shape. It affected him so much so that here's a guy who part of his job is to not ever let that emotion come through, but it did. And the king noticed, because the king was like, okay, you look different today. As a matter of fact, I know that this must be a matter of heart. This must be a sadness of heart because of the way you carry yourself. This, again, shows us how Nehemiah had carried himself in this time of service. We don't know how long it was. But so verse 3, now he's nervous because, if you make the king unhappy, you could lose your job or worse, right? So verse 3, I said to the king, let the king live forever. Why should not my face be sad when the city, the place of my father's graves, lies in ruins, and its gates have been destroyed by fire? Then the king said to me, what are you requesting? Nehemiah had lived in such a way that when he told the king, here's why I'm upset, and the king immediately looks at him and said, what do you need? How can I help you? Isn't it great to have those kind of people in your life where when they sense there's something wrong and you know they say, hey man, what's going on? And you tell them and they're like, what do you need? What time do you need me to be there? How can I help? How can I get you? How can I bless you right now? That was the kind of relationship that Nehemiah had built with the king, okay? And I love this next verse, or this next sentence. It says, so I prayed to the God of heaven. Now, the prayer is not written out for us. It wasn't a long prayer. He didn't say, "Oh, King, just give me a couple of days. I'm going to go pray and fast, and I'm going to seek the Lord." He did what I call a flare prayer. He said, "Lord, I have an opportunity here. Fill my mouth, fill my heart, fill my mouth with wisdom, so that I can speak exactly what needs to be spoken here at this time." So the king said, "What are you requesting?" I prayed to the God of heaven, verse 5, and I said to the king, "If it pleases the king, and if your servant has found favor in your sight, that you send me to Judah, to the city of my father's graves, that I may rebuild it." That's no small ask, because we're talking about this. This could have taken years. It ended up not taking very long at all, because God's hand was on it, and all the people came together and did their share. But he says, if it pleases the king, and if I found favor. Obviously he had found favor. Why? Because he lived in such a way that kept him in a favorable position with the king. And I think that's pretty important for us today, especially for those of us who we're being seen as the enemy because we believe in the Bible, so we're ignorant, or we believe there are absolute truths, so that we're hate-filled people. We're all these negative things that the media keeps throwing out about us. But despite that, if we will carry ourselves in a consistently godly way, we may not be the one who gets told a joke that's off-color. We may not be the one who's asked to sign off on something that's immoral or illegal, but we will be the one that when our relatives, when our friends, when our coworkers have a need, they'll go, you know what? I can go to Mike because he's a man after God's heart. That's the goal, okay? And the king said to me, the queen sitting beside him, "How long will you be gone? And when will you return?" So it pleased the king to send me when I had given him a time. So basically the king said, what do you need? How long do you need? How can I help? Not only does the king not respond negatively to Nehemiah, he blesses him, by just not throwing him, taking his head or something like that. But I mean, he hears him. And then he sends him a letter. He sends him a letter that gives him safe passage. He sends him men so that he's protected. And he literally goes as it's almost like the King Artaxerxes is saying, I'm going to do this, and I'm using Nehemiah to do that. So he picks up Nehemiah's task, and then he gives him all that he needs so that he can collect the resources to rebuild and do all that stuff. The king gives him all this stuff. Why? Because Nehemiah had favor with him because of the way he lived. There's an old joke, and it's about two farmers, and they're talking to each other, and the one farmer says, hey, if you had two cars, would you let me borrow one? And he goes, man, if I had two cars, I'd let you borrow one. Well, if you had two tractors, would you let me borrow? Man, if I had two tractors, I'd let you borrow one. Hey, well, if you had two mules, would you let me borrow? Man, if I had two mules, I'd let you borrow one. And then he says this. So if you have two coats, would you let me borrow one? And the other guy goes, man, I have two coats. In other words, I'm all about helping you until I actually have to sacrifice something to help you, until I actually have to change my schedule or divert funds from something I wanted to spend it on to help you out in this situation. Those are really, really important things that we have to do. So my encouragement today, as I was thinking about this, I thought of the movie Courageous, came out several years ago. One of my favorite characters in that movie was the guy Javier. And Javier, just the Holy Spirit is just leads him to build the guy's garage and all this other stuff. Javier gets a much needed job. He's working at a factory. He's doing the best he can do. He's trying to get his family out of debt. He's trying to keep his kids fed and his wife happy and feeling safe and secure. And the boss brings Javier into his office and basically says, Javier, we're going to promote you, but we need you to do this. And he asked him to do something questionable, to change some numbers or whatever. And he was given, think about this and come give us your answer in the morning. But if you're going to be on our team, you're going to do blah, blah, blah. So Javier goes home. He tells his wife, he prays about it. And then the next day he goes, I can't do that. I can't do that because I would be sinning against God if I'm going to break the law, even though this is what my boss has asked me to do. And it's his company. And do I really care? But he did care. And so he goes back and he says to the boss, boss, as much as I need this job, I cannot do the thing you're asking me to do. And then the boss reaches out his hand and he says, congratulations, Javier, you're our new manager of whatever. And as he's leaving, the other guy he said, man, we didn't know there was anybody like you left in the company, because he was a man of integrity. And we have to be people of integrity. We serve Jesus Christ, the most integrity-filled person that's ever walked the face of the earth. And we want to live like him. We want to be like him. And while, again, it may get us eliminated from the office gossip, it may keep us out of somebody sharing some questionable material with us, that's okay. But what it does is it keeps the door open for people when they have real needs. They know where to find us. And so I just encourage you this week to live a life of favor. And, and every once in a while, God gives you some favors through that. I hope you have a great week. God bless you. See you next week.